Hey there, peeps. Detective Boo here. My goodness. This past week's been kind of crazy. We got a lot of interesting results here. Let me switch over to last week. Um, Plenty of stuff to go through. I pretty much nailed every single game that um, from the afternoon onwards. Don't look at this tie. I went in total of 11 and 4 and 1 last week, bringing me up to a grand total on the year of 42, 21 and 1, which is pretty damn impressive if you ask me. That's about 66% of the games right, about a third I miss, but yeah. Um, this game I kind of thought was going to be closer, and it was. So was this game. I was thinking maybe going with the Steelers, but I wasn't sore on them quite yet. And to be honest, I don't know if I am still. The Browns and Lions, I kind of saw that one coming. I should have picked the Giants here. I really should have picked the Giants. Ugh. I said it was gonna be a closer game, but I didn't think they'd actually pull off the upset. So I'm kind of I'm kind of mad at myself for that one. Commanders and Falcons. This Falcons team confuses me. I'll get that onto that a little later as well. The Patriots. I saw them winning. I didn't see them completely blowing Carolina out of the water though. So I guess it really does show how much the Bryce Young has really declined from compared to the end of last season. This game originally was not supposed to be this close. Philly was in control of this game, but Tampa nearly came back and gave me a win on this one. Houston blew the doors off of Tennessee last week, but who knows? But it just shows how really horrid Tennessee is this year. Saints, this game was actually a lot closer than people expected, including myself. I really thought Buffalo was gonna cakewalk them, but sometimes it can be just like that. I kind of saw this game being close to. I went LA here, and it paid off. They ended up pulling off a little bit of a comeback at the end and taking the victory after losing to Philly in a heartbreaking fashion in Week 3. This game, I was going to go. I thought about going San Fran, but I decided to go Jacksonville at the last minute just because I wasn't sure if there was a team that could beat San Fran injured and all this. It was going to be the Jags, and it paid off. They ended up pulling a 5-point victory. This game I thought was going to be a lot closer. The Chiefs actually looked bad, but to be fair, it was against a Ravens defense that was completely injured. So we'll see how truly back the Chiefs are this upcoming week. Um, the Bears and Raiders. The Bears needed a blocked field goal to win this game, but you take your victories wherever you can get them from, and I don't think any Bears fans are going to be complaining about that. This game, the Packers probably should have lost this, but you know what? As a um, any Packers fan will say you just take it, even though it was a tie, but it doesn't affect you that badly in the standings as a loss would. Um, the Cowboys, though, will definitely take a tie. They were expected to get a. People were saying all week Micah was going to have like 6 or 7 sacks on Prescott this week, and he only got one for no loss. So if you're a Cowboys fan, you'll take that and the tie. The Dolphins pulled off the first victory of the year. The Jets completely blowing it again, and then the Broncos blowing the doors off the Bengals. It wasn't nearly close to the 50 points I had predicted, but hey, 31 points in total, 28-3. Unless you're a Falcons fan or Bengals fan, you'd love seeing that. So we're on to Week 5 this week. Unfortunately, this is when bye weeks start happening, which means less games to predict, which is always kind of sad. But you know what? We still got plenty of games to go through, and yeah, we'll hopefully see how each of these teams pan out. We don't talk about him. I What's your favorite Chargers schedule video? Honestly, this year's might have been one of the best ones. I love this year's Chargers one because I know I think it was Minecraft this year, right? It was really interesting to see. I know the Chargers always do. Unfortunately, their on-field performance doesn't always reflect that. So, but we'll get to that later. Let's start with tomorrow night's game though. Thursday night at 7:15 local time, which is for me, which would be about 5:15 local time in LA. We had two NFC wins. We get their other two rivals going at it this week. We got the San Francisco Niners taking on the Los Angeles Rams. The Niners, the injury bug finally caught up to them, as the Jags, yikes, they did not look very very good at all against Jacksonville, and yeah, it's just one of those games where it just you don't know what's gonna happen really with this Niners team. Let me make sure this is up while I'm talking about this. But yes, the Niners. Oh, Chiefs a hog. Oh, okay. Well, anyways, the Niners really did not show through last week. The Rams though, they came off a really really good week. A great win against Indianapolis last week. They after losing to the Philadelphia Eagles in heartbreaking fashion 2 weeks ago. Last week they beat the Colts in one of the closer games of the year, which at the beginning of the year I don't think anyone was expecting anything like that. But yeah, the Rams still look like a really really good squad. Puka and Stafford on offense have been really clicking for the Rams these past few weeks, and the defense still looks like a pretty solid unit. I don't think there's many flaws you can find on that unit, and it's going to be interesting to see how San Fran really really prepares for that this upcoming week. And on defense too, they're still missing Nick Bosa as he's out for the year, as you all know from last week. It's gonna be a very interesting game. Usually, divisional games are a lot closer than they appear to be, and this is where the craziest stuff happens. But I'm still gonna go with the Rams. If the Niners were fully healthy, I would have taken the Niners coming off a loss. They were needing a bounce back game, but the Rams to me just look a little more complete and ready and battle tested and ready for this game, and they probably are the favorites to win the West right now. So I would say give me the Rams in this one. And then we kick off the Sunday games. We got a London game at 8:30 in the morning my time, which would be what, like 2:30 for London people, for the UK. It's gonna be a very interesting one. But anyways, we got the Minnesota Vikings taking on the Cleveland Browns. The Vikings. Don't let the score fool you. That game was not really close at all, and it probably shouldn't have been that close. Carson Wentz kind of like looked like a shell of his former 2018 or so self, and it just was not a pretty game for him. The Vikings get the full Wentz experience after having a masterclass from him in Week 3. The Vikings completely tumbled with him in Week 4, and this is their second straight international game after losing in Dublin this past week. So we'll see how they rebound from that. They may be more accustomed to the time changes, but we'll see. Meanwhile, the Browns, they finally benched Joe Flacco in favor of Dylan Gabriel. And he's going to be the starter for this upcoming game. After Flacco just did not really impress anybody in week 4 against the Lions. I want to look up the stats real quick for that game because yikes, it was just not great. 2 picks, no touchdowns, completed about half of his attempts, which he had over 30 of them for about 180 yards or so. So it was not a very, very impressive performance from Flacco by any means. Um, but yes, they will get the benefit of taking on a weaker NFC North opponent in the Vikings, because I'm not sure how the Vikings are truly looking at this point in the year. The Browns, though, yes, they pulled off the stunning upset against the Packers a few weeks ago, but I still think they could be easily one of the three worst teams in the whole league. So I am going to give it to the Vikings this week. I expect the offense to bounce back a little bit. I don't expect Wentz to have a very, very good game, especially considering how the Browns' defense can do and perform against these better offenses. But I still think the Browns are going to make too many mistakes. As much as I liked Dart last week, I don't know about Gabriel this upcoming week. It would be nice to see the Browns do something with Gabriel and give him a nice start, but something's just telling me that that's not going to happen, especially with Minnesota already being accustomed to the time changes. And yeah, it's hopefully Cleveland keeps this a close game so Gabriel has a good first look in the NFL. And now we're on to the new games. We start off in Indiana with the Las Vegas Raiders sitting at 1-3, taking on the Indianapolis Colts at 3-1. The Raiders, they were forcefully put into the blocked field, had a field goal blocked against them party, along with the Buccaneers, the Rams, and the Packers from 2 weeks ago. The Raiders, jeez, losing on a blocked field goal, it was not the greatest second half for the Raiders. They allowed the Bears to come back in that game, and you just wonder if Geno's really the guy, because he did not have a great he didn't have a great game either. With yes, he had two touchdowns and completed about 2/3 of his passes, but he only picked up 117 total yards and he threw 3 picks, and that would be the Raiders' undoing. So yeah, Genti had a really good game though. He finally was showing how well they can effectively run the ball, and if Genti really, really keeps this up, the Raiders might have a chance of actually being halfway decent this year. Meanwhile, the Colts, they suffered their first loss of the year at the hands of the Los Angeles Rams. Jones had a pretty interesting game, a touchdown, but he did throw 2 picks. But he had completed 24 of his 33 attempts for 262 yards. So, not a bad day from Jones. Probably his worst one on the year, but still, for a guy that just came out of like purgatory hell in New York, he'll be taking that even in a loss. So the Colts are looking for a bounce back game. The Raiders are just looking to get anything rolling for them. Jonathan Taylor, I know, is a wrecking machine though on the run game as well. He didn't really do a whole lot last week, but if they can get him rolling again, then I think they could light up that Raiders defense, which hasn't looked too bad, but it's nothing too impressive either. And I think it does come down to that, because both of these rushing attacks are going to be really, really good, and I just trust the Colts defense to handle it more than the Raiders to handle it. So I am going to go with the Colts here. Also, it is a home game for the Colts, and you always want to try and really impress your own home crowd. So yeah, we'll see how that goes for the Colts. Next up, we got the New York Giants taking on the New Orleans Saints. The Giants. Whew, what a performance from Jackson Dart. I guess maybe not that impressive. It was his first start though, but a massive victory over the previously unbeaten Chargers. Dart, like I said, not that particularly good of a performance, but he made the plays when he had to. So, give him credit for that. And yeah, but the victory did come at a cost, though. They lose Malik Neighbors on an ACL tear, I believe, for the rest of the season. So that really hurts any chances of being somewhat relevant. But hey, the Giants, maybe this is a momentum shifter for them that they really, really needed. Meanwhile, for the Saints, I was saying last week how this was gonna be like the Bills were gonna like put a 60 burger on them. The Saints only lost by 12, so props to them for really, really putting it up there. Rattler had 126 yards and a touchdown, so it wasn't that bad on a game for him. Um, the Saints confused me. They had a really terrible game against Seattle the previous week before the Bills game, and then they had a pretty average game against the Bills. It was 21-16 going into the fourth quarter, so it was a little bit of a collapse at the end, but it was surprisingly a close game. The Saints, for whatever reason, also played so much better at home. If they're going to get a win this season, it probably is going to be against the Giants, and the Giants really need this game to keep themselves rolling. They still had the toughest schedule in the entire league going into this season. And after this, you get a pair of games against the Eagles and the Broncos on your schedule. So any momentum you want to build for this season, you have to get it in this game against New Orleans. And as for the Saints, how much are you really going to be wanting that first round pick? I assume it's going to be pretty needy. So I'm not sure if I want to pick the Giants here, but this also could be a potential upset watch for the Saints. And I'm really tempted to pick New Orleans here, just because I really do think the Saints can take this game. It's at home. They've looked better at home for whatever reason. The two games they played at home, they looked good, and maybe Dart doesn't have a great game again, and this time maybe it bites New York. It bites back against the Giants because he didn't have a particularly great game against the Chargers, but it was enough to really beat them. And I think the Giants are a bit overhyped right now. I do think the Saints do take this one. I am gonna go with the New Orleans Saints. But if the Giants really do show by blowing the doors off the Saints that they are truly better with Jackson Dart, then man, it is gonna really, really look good for Dart in his upcoming future in New York. It also taken into a factor that Malik Neighbors is still out really hurts the Giants on offense. So I think this will be a closer game than people expect, and I do think the Saints take this one. So I am going upset on that one. It's going to be an interesting game. That's for sure. Next up, we got the Dallas Cowboys sitting at 1-2-1. God, I hate that record. Going up against the 0-4 New York Jets. The Cowboys took the Packers to overtime and tied them, which is essentially a victory for the Cowboys. They were getting smack talked all week, saying how Micah was going to go off against Dak Prescott, how the Packers were going to blow the doors off the Cowboys in their own stadium. And yet the Cowboys really did prove that they could compete with some of these better teams. Now, I don't know how much the Packers really were great, because they did have a bit of injuries on their side. But, hey, after getting smack talk like that, you really, really put a performance up that really earned you a little bit of respect this last week. The Cowboys still confuse me, though, because they'll play fantastically against the Eagles, against the Packers. And then they play really, really weirdly and bad against the Giants and Bears. So it's like, I don't know how real this team is. Meanwhile, for the Jets, they cannot catch a break in these close games. That is 3 straight games where the Jets lose by 1 possession. And you just start to wonder, like, can this team really put 4 quarters of football together and actually come out with a win in this? Yeah. Even with Tyree going down for the Dolphins, the Jets still couldn't find much of a stop when they really needed to. And it, again, came back to bite them. So, we'll see how they look this upcoming week against the Cowboys. It's very, very interesting. I expect this game to be a lot closer. I expect this to get a lot closer than people think. It's going to be a closer game. I am going to go with the Jets because something strikes me about the Cowboys. I feel like this team would be the ones that took the Packers to overtime and tied them, and then the next week get the doors rocked by them by the Jets. And even if they don't, I think the Jets do pull off the victory here. The Jets, something has to go their way eventually. And I think against the Cowboys, who just look so weird this year, I think this is the perfect opportunity for them to get their first victory on the year. And if they don't, then man, it's gonna look really, really bad for New York. And especially since they were supposed to be better without Aaron Rodgers. So, yikes if the Jets lose this game. Next up, though, we got the Denver Broncos taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. Andrew, man, if you're paying attention to the Eagles this year, can you guys put 2 fucking halves of football together? This week it was the opposite of week 3. The Eagles came out so strong in their first half against Tampa Bay. They were up by I think 24-6 at the half, and then they allowed the Buccaneers to get back into the game. It's just like, if this team could put 4 quarters of football together, they may be the biggest threat to win the Super Bowl again. And even if they don't, they still look like one of the better contenders for the NFC at the very least. But they really gotta play 4 quarters against this team. Denver, the Broncos, because their defense is gonna be really, really strong, and they're gonna be eyeing Hurts all day. The problem for the Broncos is they need to get their offense together and be consistent with it, because they showed it last week. They blew the doors off the Bengals, but this Eagles D isn't nearly as weak as the Bengals was, and definitely more moralized than the Bengals without Joe Burrow. And if the Broncos can truly establish their offense this week, they have a great chance of beating the Eagles and handing them their first loss of the year. Hello, Hasmas. Welcome to the stream. I don't know if I want to go Denver here, though. It is a home game. Philly just looks unbeatable no matter how many close games they play. They look like the Chiefs from last year, except they can actually play offense. It is going to be a very, very, very interesting game. Again, another noon slate for this kind of game, but it makes more sense considering these 2 teams don't traditionally play each other, and you don't really see this as a Super Bowl matchup potentially. But do I go with the upset here? If Denver can establish a really good offense, I think they have a chance of winning this game. But if they don't, the Eagles are going to have their way with them. I'm going to go safe pick. I'm going to go Eagles here. I'm going to take it for granted that the Bengals were just completely demoralized. And if the Broncos really haven't proved to me that offense is going to be really, really consistent this year. So I am going to go with the Eagles. I might regret this one. I really might regret this one. Please don't let this be the Giants pick from last week for this week. Ugh. Next up, we got the Miami Dolphins taking on the Carolina Panthers, and yikes. Even with a win by one of these teams, both of them really, really did not have good weeks. The Dolphins, yes, they picked up the first one against New York, which that's not really saying much, but hey, you take your wins whenever you can get them. But it came at a tremendous cost. Tyreek Hill, if any of you saw that injury, I am so sorry for your eyes, because he broke his leg and then was carted off smiling. I know people were saying that it was because he doesn't want to play in Miami anymore and such, but it could also be from just shock. But I digress. The Dolphins, though, they missed a massive opportunity to trade this man and really get a rebuild going, because something's telling me this is not going to pan out for them at all. That offense still does. Yes, they did light it up a little bit against the Jets, but it still didn't look great. And losing Hill might have ruined any chance at a rebuild. So they really have to go in all out this upcoming season until they can get stuff figured out. Meanwhile, for the Panthers, I thought it was going to be a closer game. Like, the Panthers just got completely pounded by the Patriots. It was not pretty. Bryce Young just does not look like the guy right now. And it's really, really hard to see him turning it around, even against a weaker Miami team. It is at home, I get it, but I am going to go with Miami in this game. This could have potential to be a very low scoring game. But I really do think the Dolphins can establish something on offense, even without Tyreek, just because the Panthers on offense is not going to be there. And yeah, this might be a tank bowl in this one. So, and then a surprising tank bowl. One of these two teams is going to be 1-4 after this week. You got the Houston Texans traveling to Maryland to take on the Baltimore Ravens. The Texans blew the doors off Tennessee, and it just shows really how bad the Titans are this year. I thought they were going to be a little better than they look, and yikes, that team is gross. But the Texans, though, they took advantage of that. They blew the doors off the Titans when they really needed to, and now they got a massive and important win, and they got to keep the train rolling. Meanwhile, the Ravens, the injury bug has hit them this time around. The Ravens losing 6 starters on defense in their game against Kansas City, and you're also concerned about Lamar Jackson, who also went out with a shoulder injury, I believe. So he's questionable for week 4. Or with a hamstring injury, I'm sorry. And he's out for 2 to 3 weeks. So, potentially. So, you just, even if you get Jackson back this week, he's not going to be completely 100%. And the Ravens just looked completely demoralized in the fourth quarter of the Chiefs game. And it's just not it's not a good time to be a Ravens fan right now. Both of these teams have serious flaws. The Ravens, as I said, had injuries. The Texans, that O-line is still horrendous. And both of their wins this year were not very impressive, even though they were both blowouts, just because the teams they were playing are that bad. And they both have proven they really cannot hang with these better teams. So it's going to be really interesting to see how these two teams play out. Because the Texans, they lost to the Bucks, the Jags, and their opener to the Rams. Meanwhile, the Ravens blew their game against the Bills in Week 1. Then they lost back-to-back games in Weeks 3 and 4 against the Lions and Chiefs, respectively. So, again, neither of these two teams can really prove that they can beat good teams. I think I am going to go with the Texans here. Because, yes, that O-line is horrendous. We can all admit that. But not only do the Ravens look demoralized, but who's going to be playing on defense? They're going to be playing like a freaking, like a practice squad team out there at this point. I get it's in Baltimore. They really need something to turn the tables. But at least the Texans are healthy for somewhat the most part. Even without Joe Mixon, it is still going to be. I still think the Texans have enough just because of how badly beaten up the Ravens are right now. So, I'm giving it to the Texans, but Baltimore, if you can get out of this, you might actually have a chance of winning your division. The Texans, though, they really need a lot to go their way to catch Indy and Jacksonville. We're on to our next game. Between the Tennessee Titans and the Arizona Cardinals. Neither of these two teams have looked great, but the Titans just look horrendous. The Titans probably blew one of your best chances to get a win this year right now, because 0-4, yikes. And they did not look pretty, unlike the Saints or the Browns. Or the Browns aren't winless, so. But unlike the Saints, who are also 0-4, the Titans just did not look pretty at all. The Jets and Saints at least looked pretty decent in their losses. The Titans, no fight whatsoever. And it just shows how much the Titans are really, really missing key pieces on offense to help Cam Ward. And they're going to take on an Arizona team who really needs a bounce-back game. 2 straight losses to NFC West opponents. And they're really, really missing James Conner right now, who's also out for the season with an injury. So they really need this bounce-back game. And they probably have a better chance of getting into the playoffs than the Titans do at the moment. And it's also in Glendale, Arizona. So I am going to go with the Cardinals here. It's not going to be a pretty win. Something tells me about that, especially considering their 2 wins before this game. Against the Saints and Panthers were both close. But it's not going to... The Titans just look lifeless this season. And I expect the Cardinals to take full control and advantage of that. And if they don't, then it's really, really panic time in Arizona. Now that was a 305 game. We were starting off with 305 games now. The next one, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers sitting at 3-1, taking on the Seattle Seahawks, also at 3-1. Both of these teams look actually pretty damn good. The Seahawks, they are definitely proving me wrong right now. Sam Darnold actually looks pretty damn good in that Seahawks system, and it's come through with 3 wins after a pretty disappointing week 1. They probably could be 4-0 right now. So, props to the Seahawks for really, really turning the tables. Meanwhile, the Bucs, yes, they lost, but they still showed a lot of fight in that second half against the Eagles. And yes, you're missing Mike Evans now, but Baker has proven he can win without Evans. That Bucs team just is that good, and something is telling me they don't really need him in this game. I do believe in the Bucs a little more than the Seahawks, though, just because the Bucs have shown a lot more fight. They can grind out these these really, really tight games, and something's telling me this one's going to be a tight game. If the Seahawks take this game early, that's their best chance of winning this game, because they can hold off Tampa Bay from any kind of comeback. But if the Bucs can keep it consistent with the Seahawks all game long, then the Bucs probably should be putting the nail in the coffin to whatever Seahawks' hopes of winning this game is, because they have proven in 3 games this year that they can really grind out and take victory from the jaws of defeat. So I am going to go with the Bucs in this game. I expect this to be a closer game. It's going to be one of the best games of this week. And it's going to be interesting to see how these two teams fan out. They got 2 quarterbacks who used to play on the same team. They both were Carolina's quarterbacks for a time, and they both have revitalized their careers in different ways. Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. Carolina, you can tell something's wrong with the Panthers just looking at that, but I digress. The Bucs just look better right now, and they've definitely proven it over these past 4 weeks. So I am going to go with the Bucs here. This game. Why is this game of the week? We couldn't flex this game? Really? We got the Detroit Lions at 3-1, going to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals, who sit at 2-2. Expect this one to be a complete blowout. The Lions looked so good in their past 3 games. 34 plus points in 3 weeks since their opening loss to the Packers. That's saying something. Meanwhile, the Bengals looked lifeless without Joe Burrow. Two straight blowout games on the road, and I don't expect them to get any better with Jake Browning. And hey, they just look like a lost cause for the year, which is sad. Like, this team probably could have made a Super Bowl run again with Joe Burrow, but with him out, this team just does not look anything like a playoff contender. And I expect the Lions to take complete advantage of that. I'm going with Detroit this week in this battle of the Cats. So, Sensei, if you can make this a close game, I'll give you all the props in the world. But something's telling me this is not going to be a very fun game. Finally, to wrap up the 325 games, we got the Washington Commanders taking on the Los Angeles Chargers. Whoa, both of these teams need this game for a bounce-back game. The Commanders, yikes, looked not that great against the Atlanta Falcons. Hello, Barry. Welcome to the stream. Sorry, it took me so long to notice. But anyways, the Commanders, not having Jalen Hurts did hurt them this time around. Because they let the Falcons, who got blown out 30-0 the previous week, completely walk all over that defense. But yeah, they're going to get him back this week, which is huge for this game against the Chargers, who suffered an injury of their own outside of losing to the Giants. The Joe Alt injury, yikes. He went out on against the Giants with an ankle injury. Who knows when he'll be back? And that might really, really hinder the Chargers' offensive plan, just because Herbert really relies on his weapons and his feet. But without a good offensive line, as you can see in previous examples, aka look at this year's Texans and the Super Bowl Chiefs offensive line, you can't win. And something's telling me Washington's going to be waiting to pounce all over that. So I am going to go with the Washington Commanders this game, especially with Daniels back, even without Scary Terry, which I think he's still out. But I think he is going to be still out, but he is going to be back sooner rather than later. But yeah, I'm going to go with Washington. The injuries on the LA Chargers just are concerning. And, the Chargers are capable of choking these kinds of games. So I am going to go Washington here. This could really be a good game, but it depends on how badly the injuries truly affect the Chargers and the Commanders. So it's going to be an interesting game for sure. We got 2 more games to predict, though. We got the Sunday night game. We got at 7:20 Central Standard Time. We got the New England Patriots taking on the Buffalo Bills. The Bills, man, they look really good. One of 2 unbeaten teams left in the season. Yes, they did get a bit of a scare from the Saints, but it's not too scary enough where it looks like a major concern. The Bills still put them away, which is huge. Good teams know how to put these really, really bad teams away, even when they're giving them a fight. So, props to the Bills for that. Meanwhile, for the Patriots, they routed the Panthers at home last week. And this could honestly be a really, really sneakily good game. This is the second Sunday night football game for the Bills this season. For the Patriots, it's their first. So who knows how well this game will go. I expect this to be a pretty damn close game. I do still like the Patriots to be a sneaky dark horse, to be like a 9-8 team, an 8-9 team, and they're showing it right now. They're really looking like they're trending in the right direction. But I don't think they're quite ready yet to take on the Bills in Buffalo, so I am going to go with the Bills in this game. Expect it to be a lot closer of a game, and expect the Patriots to give the Bills a massive scare. But something's telling me this is going to be a really, really good Sunday Night Football game. It's a divisional rivalry. It's between two pretty good teams. I get really great team, and then a pretty sneakily, hey, maybe we could make noise this season team. So it's going to be a really interesting game. This final week, or this final game of the week, Monday Night Football at 7:15 Central Standard Time. You got the four-time defending Super Bowl, or the four-time Super Bowl champion, home of the Mahomie, and located in the heart of America, the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Whoo, the Chiefs. Xavier Worthy made that much of a difference, huh? The Chiefs' offense looks like they finally look like their former selves again. Yes, it was against a really, really injury-battered Ravens defense, but this team needed something, anything on offense to go their way to really prove that they were back. It's the first time that the Chiefs have scored 30 or more points in a regular season game since 2023. So they were really, really missing a whole lot, and they could not be happier with that result. Meanwhile, the Jaguars, they also beat a injury-ravaged team in the Niners, the Jags. It was not a pretty win, but they'll take a win whenever they can get them. And suddenly the Jags look kind of threatening at this point. So it will be very, very interesting to see how this game goes. I love how I'm going back to the Chiefs game a little bit. I'm really happy that they allowed Pacheco and the rest of their running back core to take the ball in their own hands. That's what we've been really, really missing in these all last season and these past 3 games before the Ravens game. And if we can get that run game going again and have the offense really click like it did last week, look out, because this team is really dangerous. And both of these offenses are going to be very, very good. The big difference in this game is going to be defense. Who's going to be the better defense at the end of the day? Who's going to be the ones that makes the stops whenever they need to, and who's going to be the ones to make that one pivotal play that changed the momentum in this game? And for me, it's still the Chiefs. The defense, they came and did their job. And yes, they did allow 20 points on the Ravens, but one of those TDs was a garbage time touchdown. So you know they can do the job. They're still the team on defense. Meanwhile, the Jags, they have a pretty good defense, but I don't know if the Chiefs look anything like they did last week, that Jags defense might experience a lot of trouble. So even though it is in Jacksonville, and while the Chiefs still have to be on high alert, because this team is not one to just be taken lightly, I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs. They found something last week. Watching that game, it felt so good to get that many points again. And the Chiefs, if they can take this game going into Detroit, look out, because this team might be running a hot streak, especially if the Chargers lose this week. They'll both be 3-2, and they'll be in a race to get to first place now. So it'll be very, very interesting to see how this team looks going forward. But yes, the team from the heart of America is back, folks. But that's going to be it for this picks this week. I did want to go over one more thing, so I will pull that up real quick. Let me pull it up. No, not that. But yeah, it's going to be a very, very interesting weekend, because not only do we have not only do we have the football predictions this week, I went ahead and made myself a little bit of a baseball bracket because the postseason is here. a little extra segment from me, just because. Why not? This is my complete bracket. This was made obviously before the postseason started. My preseason picks. Let me go find them real quick because they did not age well whatsoever. And you guys can make fun of me how much ever you want. Um, Let me go back because I made them all the way back, and all I know is my two World Series, like my pennant winners, are still in it, and yeah, it was very interesting because I did pick the Yankees to win the East. That clearly didn't happen. One of them was me picking the Mets for whatever reason. Um, I think everyone knows how that went because yikes. um, Let me go pull it up. I'm not gonna show it on screen just because I'm not really happy with how that turned out. But you know what? Let's see. But looking at my bracket though, I do have the Yankees winning it all. This was my World Series prediction at the beginning of the year. I do like how the Yankees look, and it's just gonna be a very very interesting year. Looks like the Padres won while I was streaming, so that's gonna be very very interesting to see how that game three goes. And if the Yankees and Reds win their games tonight, every single series will be going into it will be very very interesting to see how all three of these series end up. Oh yes, let me read this out loud. Before the first pitch of opening day between the Brewers and Yankees, or Orioles and Blue Jays, depending on who starts first, I shall make predictions on where each team lands in the standings to this season. Happy opening day, everyone. Um, Let me see. These didn't age well. Let me repost it real quick. So let me start off with this. The American League. I had in the AL East, I had the New York Yankees winning the division. I had the Baltimore Orioles finishing in second. That clearly didn't happen. They completely fell off the rails and finished like I don't know, like 20 or so games under 500. They were like 70. Let me look at their record real quick. They were like 75 and 87. 12 games under 500. Yikes. Then third was the Red Sox, which actually panned out. They actually finished third. Fourth was the Blue Jays, which they ended up not only winning the division, but winning the entire AL regular season title. And finally, I had the Tampa Bay Rays finishing last, which it was wrong, but they still finished fourth. And yeah, so I had one team correct in that, and that was the Red Sox. Ay, ay, ay. They did not pan out well at all. In the Central, I went homer and picked the Royals to win the division. That didn't pan out. I had the Cleveland Guardians finishing second. They nearly did, but their miraculous comeback from 15 and a half games down to the Tigers allowed them to win. The Twins finishing in third. That didn't work either. The Tigers finishing fourth. That clearly didn't happen. And finally, the White Sox finishing in fifth. I think everyone predicted the Sox would be in last place, so I'm not really happy with that. The AL West, I had the Astros winning it again because they won it every year, but obviously this year was different. The Mariners ended up winning the division. The Texas Rangers finishing in second. The Mariners in third. Obviously, those didn't happen. And I think I missed on all five of these because I had the Angels in fourth and the Athletics in fifth, which they swapped places. So I went 0 for 5 in picking the AL. My seedings: the Yankees 1, the Astros 2, the Royals 3, the Orioles 4, the Guardians 5, and the Rangers 6. Ugh. The Yankees and the Guardians were the only two teams from that list to make the postseason this year. Ouch. Meanwhile, hopefully the NL's better. The National League, oh god. The winners of the NL East, I had the New York Mets. They didn't even make the postseason. Oh my god. 2 seed were the Philadelphia Phillies. The second place in the East was the Phillies. 3 was Atlanta, which I said the Braves were going to have a down year. I didn't think it was going to be this bad, though. So, they finished 4th. 4th place, I had the Nationals. They finished 5th. And then the Marlins, I thought were going to be flat out terrible. They actually didn't look half bad this season. They finished 5th. Or, they finished 3rd. So, I'd missed on all 5 of the NL East. Jesus Christ, I'm terrible at picking these. The NL Central, I had the Milwaukee Brewers finishing in 1st. That panned out. 2nd place going to the Cubs as well. 3rd, I had the Cardinals. That didn't work. They went into 4th. The Reds, I had in 4th. They finished 3rd. And then the Pirates finishing in 5th. So the NL Central I've really hit the NL Central pretty dang good. The only teams I missed were the Cardinals and Reds, which I just had swapped. So, yeah, it was a good year to pick for the Central. The NL West, I had the LA Dodgers finishing 1st. The San Diego Padres finishing 2nd, the Arizona Diamondbacks finishing in 3rd, the San Francisco Giants finishing in 4th, and the Rockies in 5th. The only 2 teams that I missed, the Diamondbacks and Giants, who I just had flipped. So everything else hit in the West. So the NL, outside of the Mets, outside of picking the Mets, really damn good. And the seedings, I had the Dodgers, the Brewers, the Mets, the Cubs, the Padres, and the Phillies. So I actually had one playoff matchup correct, and that was the Padres and Cubs. So yeah, I got that one. The Brewers, I had the 2 seed. They were the 1 seed. Dodgers were the 1 seed. They were obviously the 3 seed. New York didn't even make the playoffs. So every single team on here hit except the freaking Mets. Obviously the Reds got in this year. I don't think I expected the Reds to get in. So good job for you. The wild card rounds. I had the Royals beating the Rangers 2-0 in the wild card. I had the Orioles beating the Guardians 2-1 in the wild card. The Phillies upsetting the Mets 2-1, and the Cubs winning against the Padres 2-1. All right. The divisional series. I had the Yankees sweeping the Orioles 3-0. I had the Royals upsetting the Astros 3-1. I had the Dodgers taking the Cubs to 5 games and winning in it 3-2. And then I had the Phillies upsetting the Milwaukee Brewers 3-1. And then in the ALCS, I had the Yankees beating the Royals 4-2, and then the same thing in the NLCS, but with the Phillies upsetting the Dodgers 4-2. And in the World Series, I had the Yankees winning in 7 games. World Series MVP, Aaron Judge, which is still a possibility. So, as you can see on this bracket, I stuck with the Phillies and Yankees facing off in the World Series, with the Yankees winning it. But in my bracket, in this series against the Tigers and Guardians, the Guardians just looked so good, coming back all the way from 15.5 games down. Meanwhile, the Tigers were going in the opposite direction. They surprised me in Game 1. Game 2, the Guardians really took over, but it was a bit of a scare at the end, even though they won 6-1. So it'll be interesting to see how Game 3 goes. I do have the Guardians winning that series, though. The Red Sox and Yankees, I went Yankees just because they looked that good, but the Red Sox have really impressed me so far with how they handled these big game situations. And it'll be interesting to see if either of them can beat the Blue Jays. Dodgers and Reds, I went on the Dodgers. The Reds, congrats on getting here, but you're getting your asses handed to by the Dodgers. It's just such a matchup. And then the Padres and Cubs, I went with Chicago. I kind of figured it was going to happen in 3 games anyway. just because both of these teams are that good. And what was the score of that Padres? What was the score of that game? 3-0. So the Padres beat them 3-0 today. So it'll be interesting to see how Game 3 goes for them. In the ALDS, I picked the Yankees over the Blue Jays. I don't think Toronto's that strong of a team. They can prove me wrong, sure, but they did not look great at the end at the final stretch. Meanwhile, the Yankees looked really damn good, and we'll see how that pans out. Mariners against the Guardians. I went Seattle. The Mariners look really, really good, and I like how the Guardians have played as well. I think that one goes to all 5 games if those two teams meet. But the Mariners, something's telling me they're gonna get back to the ALCS at the very least. And then the Phillies against the Dodgers. I went Phillies. I love how the Phillies have really panned out this year. They truly shocked me. I thought they weren't going to be nearly this good. But you know what? Sometimes life happens for you. As for the Brewers and Cubs, I went Brewers. I don't think they're that bad to get knocked out in the first round. But the Brewers have been known to really choke these big series. Yankees and Mariners. It's a repeat of 2001. I'm sorry, Mariners fans, but I'm going Yankees. I think the Yankees are really on a redemption tour, trying to get back to the World Series. And it would be very, very fitting for the Yankees to get there. And for the Phillies and Brewers, I went Phillies. I think this is where the Brewers stumble. And I think the Phillies, their grit is really going to grind out here. And in the World Series, the redemption tour completes with the Yankees 4-3 victory over the Phillies. So, World Series MVP, I'm still going Aaron Judge just because my preseason prediction told me to do it. But anyways, I think that's going to be it for this stream. It was a little longer because of this, but yeah, it's going to be a very, very interesting postseason here and a very interesting Week 5 for the NFL. So, that being said, sure to like, be sure to subscribe, be sure to share the channel around. It helps me grow. And, yes. I'll probably be back this weekend with something. I want to do something with the gang. I'm not sure what yet, but keep an eye out for it. But with that being said, see you later, peeps. Thanks for watching. Also, go Chiefs.